It ended up, I did my thesis on the use of acupuncture to induce non-ordinary states of consciousness. And, a thesis, you have to build on something that's already there. And the closest I could find was Stanislav Grof's work called holotropic breathwork. He was, like Leary and Ram Dass, he was doing studies at Johns Hopkins. He's a psychiatrist.
I'm Michael Max, and this is Qiological, the podcast that curates East Asian medicine and methods through the power of conversation. Some time ago, I read a book about Wayne Henderson. He's an Appalachian guitar maker who you'd likely only know about if guitars are a thing for you. It might take him years to make a guitar because building a guitar isn't simply a matter of assembly. It includes the people that stop by the shop to jawbone, how the chirp of crickets lays down a counterpoint to noodling through a Travis Pick melody. It requires the humidity being just right for gluing certain woods, and that sometimes you have to make sure your attention is just so before engaging the creation of an instrument. Things take time. Good whiskeys, wine, they need the turning of seasons, maybe a decade, even more. Think about any relationship that means something to you. It's evolved over years, multiple iterations of connection, misconception, struggle, and grace. Your clinical practice? Maybe not unlike making a guitar. There are reliable steps that require the refinement through time. In the book, the author asks another luthier about Henderson's guitars, and he says, well, there are about 600 things that go into making a fine guitar. The most important being the state of mind of the guitar maker as he's doing his work. I suspect the same holds true for the practice of acupuncture. There are many technical details to which we must attend, but it's our state of mind in the moment of doing that work that glues it all together. Shamanism was something that had my attention as a young man. I liked the idea of being capable, of being extraordinary, and having the ability to affect people and the world with unseen power. It was especially alluring as a young man because in my youth, I was unskilled and clumsy in connecting with others. I thought having access to an invisible world, it might help me. But the more I investigated it, the more it frightened me, as it seemed that traditional shamans didn't have an easy life. In fact, it looked troublesome enough that I thought it best to give the whole thing a pass if I could. These days, shamanism gets talked about a fair amount, and there are some in our trade who subscribe to Chinese medicine being shamanistic at its root. I'm not a historian, so I can't speak much to that. And I do have a bit of an uncomfortable edge when shamanism enters the conversation, which in part is why I was looking forward to having this conversation with John Myerson. As with many wisdom traditions, it's hard to go directly at things. So I hope you'll enjoy this meander through medicine, shamanistic perspective, and the potency not of power over, but power under. We'll get into all of this and more in a moment. Stay with us. These conversations come to you through the generous support of our sponsors and members. Blue Poppy, your new one-stop shop, has speedy shipping options on everything that you need for your clinic. It's Women's Health Month at Mayway Herbs. Check out their new website for learning resources on helping women with herbal medicine. Are you a creature of habit? How about making a change that helps your patients and the planet with AcuFast needles? And later in the show, raising your fees doesn't have to be a difficult process. Jane has helpful suggestions on making it easy and effective. And finally, have you considered that having a thriving, profitable practice is one of the most healing things that you can do? Julie Bear Don't Walk has, and she can help you do something about it too. Do be sure to visit the sponsors page on the Qiological website to take advantage of all the special offers our terrific sponsors have for listeners of the podcast. Picture this. Your clinic is buzzing with patients, and then you realize that you're down to your last box of needles. No need for panic, because Blue Poppy, your one-stop shop for all your acupuncture needs, they ship orders received before 3 p.m. on the same day. With a quick visit to Blue Poppy's website, you can order premium needles, herbal formulas, and that special Dr. Bob's oil that your patients love. Blue Poppy understands practitioners can't keep patients waiting. That's why they strive to get you what you need when you need it. From high-quality Chinese herbs and formulations to acupuncture supplies and clinical essentials, Blue Poppy has served practitioners for nearly 40 years with products that meet the highest of standards. Discover everything Blue Poppy has to offer by visiting www.bluepoppy.com, and don't forget to subscribe to their mailing list for exclusive offers and more.
Hi folks, I'm Yvonne Lyle, president of Mayway Herbs. May is Women's Health Month, and as a women-owned and women-run business, we especially love how Chinese medicine can support wellness through every stage of a woman's life. So in this month's newsletter and podcast, we're covering topics like PMS, pregnancy, menopause, and osteoporosis. We'll share expert insights and effective treatment strategies you can put to good use in your clinic. Our Plumflower brand line includes herbal tea pills, tablets, extract granules, and organic herbs, all of which you can find on Mayway.com. And where you can also find articles, videos, and other resources to support your practice. Since 1969, Mayway has been a trusted source for high-quality herbal products. In these challenging times, please know that we remain committed to keeping our products accessible and affordable so you can take care of yourself and your patients. As always, thank you for supporting Real Chinese Medicine.
Daily habits and routines feel comforting, familiar, easy, automatic. That's the power of repetition. You've worked out the kinks and can do it with your eyes closed. But what if you shook things up? What if you ditched the old routine and tried something new? Hi, I'm John Stan. I've practiced acupuncture for over 30 years, and together with my wife Kelly, we created the world's first eco-friendly acupuncture needle. The AcuFast earth-friendly needle system cuts your packaging waste by 60 to 90%, depending upon your needle type, speeds up your needling, gives you more control, and best of all, while you're healing patients, we plant a tree for every 2 boxes your clinic uses. Thousands of acupuncturists have already made the switch. In just the last year, they've helped plant over 16,000 trees. Since we started, that number has grown to over 50,000. So break the routine. Be the change. Visit AcuFastNeedles.com. Your patients and the planet will thank you.
John Myerson, welcome back to Qiological.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Happy to have you. You joined us over in episode number 315. It was the kickoff to what I was thinking of as History Month, looking back at the early days of our profession before there really was a profession. And now that's actually turning into a part of the podcast. You're going to hear a little history conversation probably once a month, ongoing here for a spell because, well, it's amazing where we come from and the influences that conspire to make things happen.
It was a great time. People worked together really hard, and I got to know some really, really good, cool people across the country. And, if we hadn't banded together, we wouldn't be here where we are today. So it was pretty cool.
Sounds like the beginning of the United States. If we don't hang together, we will hang separately.
No comment.
Okay.
Look where that's got us, right?
Well, look, there's always unintended consequences. Right. Anyway, in that conversation, you mentioned something about acupuncture and non-ordinary states of reality.
That's correct.
That got my attention. So I'd like to delve into that today.
No problem. It's what I do. So I would say it started, I was doing just acupuncture, and then I realized I was doing a lot of acupuncture for emotional issues, things that were not necessarily physical, that could be treated if we look at the body, mind, spirit on the spirit continuum first, and then trickle down to the physical. And I realized that people who went into mild trance states during treatment healed better than those who didn't. And I'm thinking to myself, what's this all about? Now, up to that point, I studied very intensively Zen Buddhism. I received Dharma transmission in 1985, which made me a Zen master. I'm familiar with that sort of thing, but I never thought of acupuncture in a trance state. And I was about to apply for my doctoral dissertation in my doctoral degree in psychology. And it ended up, I did my thesis on the use of acupuncture to induce non-ordinary states of consciousness. And, a thesis, you have to build on something that's already there. And the closest I could find was Stanislav Grof's work called holotropic breathwork.
Mm-hmm.
He was, like Leary and Ram Dass, he was doing studies at Johns Hopkins. He's a psychiatrist on the use of drugs to help people heal. And when the government shut that down, he went off on his own and developed this thing called breathwork, holotropic breathwork, where they would induce a non-ordinary state of consciousness through breathing, music, some massage, stuff like that. And so I decided to use acupuncture in addition to his work. I worked with, he was in the West Coast. I worked with one of his people who was in Boston, where I am. And we devised a protocol for that. And, he was informed about this, but I never really worked with him because he was too busy. So we did over 250 sessions with people.
That's quite a few.
In groups. Yeah, either in groups or in individual. And what would happen is that we used his music, but no breath work. They would just lie there with acupuncture needles in. And I used the same points on everybody. I used on the right side, liver 3, and on the left side, large intestine 4, and on the left side, kidney 3, on the right side, small intestine 3. And I use those for a number of reasons, but the basic one is that sometimes people moved during the sessions, and I didn't want them to, stick the needles in further or whatever. So those are the points we used. And then we would turn on the music, and we would see what happened. And afterwards, people would write what they would discuss first, then write what their experiences were. And the key is to see if the experiences matched the experiences that Grof got when he called mapping the unconscious.
Mapping the unconscious.
Yeah, that was his thing. It was interesting. Basically saying that people had 3 different types, 3 different levels in the unconscious that his sessions would get to. And we hit the same ones. And I found that his sessions took 3 hours. This took about an hour and a half. I forget exactly the amount of people who went into trance state, but it was something like 50%, maybe 60%, something like that, who had an experience that they could write about. And this was about 95% with acupuncture. And so it was fascinating to me that you could induce these states.
Wait a minute. 95%, let me get that right. 95% of people went into some kind of a trance state.
Yes, that they could write about and that fit into Grof's model. And that was pretty cool, I thought, because, it helped a lot of people, first of all, and took much less time. There was much less trauma involved. With the Grof method, there was the breathing, which was hard to do. And then people would get all kinds of tetany, the spasming of the muscles everywhere. And they could come out of the session after an hour and a half, really relaxed and had a complete time with it. So I started using it on people. And then we started, along with another acupuncturist friend of mine, Dan Schwartz, who's in North Dartmouth, Mass., who was a master African drummer. And he would provide the percussion. He played the djembe drum, and he had bells, the usual bells and bowls. And he had gongs, and we played all kinds of strange music for an hour, sometimes an hour and a half. And we would put the acupuncture points in. And we would do, I don't know, up to 30 people at a time. And we would do it once a month. And we got some amazing results with that too. And then I'm going quickly, just we'll come back to it. And then I realized that I could take people on that journey without the acupuncture and without the drums. And so that's when we stopped doing it. So what I want to talk about today really is, what is it about the needles that creates this? And I personally, and not, I know, acupuncture developed out of Taoism, especially shamanic Taoism. Taoism is the indigenous religion of China. So what's an indigenous religion? Well, usually they're some sort of work with animals or with physical things like streams or meadows or oceans. They're shamanic.
And they're nature-based.
They're all nature-based. And so I'm thinking, okay, well, that's interesting. So maybe that's what the acupuncture needles are tying into, is the basic shamanic tradition that goes way, way back, that we're not even aware of. And at the time, a little after this, I started, I became an apprentice to a lady who was a shamanist from Africa, from Kenya. And I studied with her for 5 years as an apprentice until she kicked me out and told me I was out on my own.
It's kind of a classic story, isn't it? That kind of apprenticeship. Like, okay, here you go. Now get the hell out of here.
Well, this one was interesting. It I was fine just doing Zen. I had a Zen group of my own out in Metro West, Massachusetts. And, I'd lead sittings and teach the Dharma until I got tired of teaching the Dharma, which is when I got into shamanism. But what happened was I met her. I was having these dreams. It's a true story, believe it or not. I was having these dreams of this lady, some sort of middle-aged lady, and all she did was beckon to me, with her hand. She didn't say anything. She just beckoned, come here, come here, come here. And then the dream be over. That happened a number of times. At the same time, my acupuncture business partner, this weird situation, met a psychiatrist in Providence, Rhode Island, which is very close to Boston. He went down to see him, and he introduced my partner to a shamanic lady from Kenya. So he came back and he told me about her, and I said, that's great, but, I'm not really interested in shamanism. I got my thing, I'm doing it. But he just kept after me. And so one day I said, sure, I'll go. So we drove down to Providence, and I walked in the room, and guess what?
There she is.
There she is. And in that moment, my life went like 180 degrees and shifted. And so I got, amazing shifts that way in Zen and then shamanic work, which I call applied Buddhism personally. It's very, very similar to Zen, but you're doing something specific.
Hang on a second. Applied Buddhism.
Yeah, applied Zen.
Yeah.
It definitely applied Zen. I was getting tired of just teaching the Dharma, which, I liked and appreciated, but it's very kind of narrow. For me, it was narrow. I like the shamanic work because I felt free. I felt I could combine it with lots of different things. And so then we started doing the groups with the drumming and and all that kind of stuff. And what I realized very quickly is that it's not the selection of points that you use that matters. It's the power that you can generate in using the points.
The power that you generate in using the points. Now, wouldn't that also be connected to the function and what the points do?
I found that it doesn't.
Tell us more.
I find as long as you do some treatment that will relax the person, it'll work. And I found that some people who put the needles in didn't work so well as with other people who did. And the key was, as I just said, the amount of chi that you can generate when you put the needle in.
Mm-hmm. I've heard some people talk about using their intention as part of the process, and that intention is a big key thing in their needling. How does that fit in with what you're talking about here?
Well, intention, I think they're talking about focus. If they're talking about a focus, then that's probably true. But I've also found that, now I've been doing this for almost 50 years, so the amount of, trying to figure out how to say this, the shamanic work is all about gathering power or energy. I don't mean power over, I mean the power under, like the Tao Te Ching talks about. Tao is way, Te is power, Ching means book. So the Tao Te Ching literally means the way of power. And they talk about the Valley Spirit. The Valley Spirit never dies. It overcomes all. And they're talking about that yin energy that's underneath everything.
Mm-hmm.
And when you can attach to that, and that attaches to the universe or the one or the Tao, whichever they want to talk about, when you can channel that, the more you can channel that, the more you can generate power. So nowadays, I don't use needles. I just can sit there with you and connect and channel the energy. But when you're starting, I would recommend that people work on gathering that energy. It's more powerful than an intention, because an intention has ego to it.
Oh my goodness, yeah, I hear you.
And what I'm talking about is something that's egoless.
And it's connected to the yin aspect.
Correct. And I think if you talk to energy healers, I've trained a lot of energy healers, trained a lot of people energy with this, and that's what I found. If you're going to use power over, it doesn't work. It's young and it doesn't last very long. And B, then you're trying to manipulate someone as opposed to let them heal on their own.
I find it very interesting, John, that you've used the term power under. I often hear the phrase power with, very popular these days, power with, not power over, power with. I'm hearing you say power under. That feels different to me.
Well, I haven't heard the term power with. So I'll have to think about that. Everything has yin and yang to it. Everything has a balance to it. It's whatever you want to call it. It's the opposite of trying to control someone through your intention. It's an opening to the universe to flow through you, through the needle, through the channel, into the person. And that's how energy healers work.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we are, acupuncturists, right? We're moving the energy of the body, I hope.
You know, it's a really funny thing. I've been at this for 25 years now. And when people ask me what acupuncture does, I've got different answers at different times. I don't have any one pat answer.
Right. Yep.
There's not a simple corollary. Oh, it does this. It's not that easy to explain, in my experience.
Well, I tell people about energy and the energy channels that, you see those little lines on the acupuncture diagrams, and what they are is as channels with energy flows in your body. And acupuncture is a way of directing, dispersing, or enhancing the flow of energy. And when people are ill, their energy is not flowing in the right place or right way. And that's what we try to do. We try to balance that. That's as good as I can get. That people will understand quickly.
Yeah. And again, is, using that kind of languaging, at least for me, as we're having this conversation, there's a sense of manipulation. There's a sense of I'm looking to do something. There's a yang aspect to it. I get it. I'm not saying we shouldn't. I'm hearing you talk about power under, and the phrase just came into my mind that acupuncture is a way of being with.
Correct.
Why does it work? What does it do? It's a way of being with.
Yep.
And there's something about that being with. Wow. How often do we have those states of mind, those states of being where we're simply with here? And that's it.
And when you're like that, you get better results than if you don't.
Other kinds of results happen.
Right.
It's kind of out of our hands in a way.
I 100% agree. That's what I'm saying is the yin one, you open up to the universe, okay, where the power is, and the energy, you're not generating the energy. It's coming through you. So it's like you're calling it, and it comes through me into you, and it's going to do whatever it's going to do. I've lost control of it. I don't have control of it. I don't want to have control of it. I assume the body will know what to do.
John Myerson, that's a long, long way from how we usually think of medicine, that the doctor is there to do something for the patient. That's the tacit agreement that we have in this world at this time.
Yes. No question. I agree. And I have a lot of doctor friends. I was pre-med in college, and I was supposed to go to medical school, which I did get into. And then all of a sudden I said to myself, do you want to really do this? And so I worked as an orderly in a local hospital here in the OR, because at the time I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon. And all the doctors there thought it was pretty low key, that it wasn't as strict as it is now. And they all thought I was a medical student, so they let me watch a lot of surgeries. So I got to watch some.
As an orderly?
Yeah, as an orderly, yeah. And and it was pretty cool, And then, like we talked in our last session, I met Dr. So, and I decided that I would put off going to medical school, and I'd study Chinese medicine. And I never went to medical school, which I'm eternally grateful for. But yeah, no, I have an awful lot of college classmates and friends who are MDs, and I totally respect, there's a place for MDs for sure. And there's a place for allopathic medicine for sure. Is it the only medicine? No. And, that's where I'm at. And, in a lot of cases, they've poo-pooed me and laughed at me and all that kind of stuff. But I said, send me a few people. We'll see where it goes. And usually I get some decent results. And their usual comment is, well, I have no idea what it is you do, but it works, so it's all good,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if it's not replicable in a research study of some sort, then it's not quite real.
I get that. I do have that intellectual part of me.
But you've also got, at this point, it sounds like decades of experience with other things working. Things happen for people. Things change.
And nowadays, I don't use needles at all. I haven't used a needle in probably 10 years, 15 years. If somebody has an acupuncture thing, I send it to people that I've trained for that. And I love acupuncture, don't get me wrong. I use it if I have to, for sure. But I don't use it very much because my whole practice now is that connection with them. And I work at getting a connection to them. And when I do, things happen. I never know what, but things always happen. And I also work with a lot of people who are extremely sensitive and don't know what to do with the world. psychic, empathic. They see things. They talk to souls. You name it. There's a whole range of different, things like that. And I help them live in the world and train them how to use their gift to help others.
I've had people in my clinic from time to time. I'm not sure what it is, but as they're telling me what's going on for them, I was going to say it's clear to me. Something comes through. It is clear to me. I'll just own that they're sensitive in a unique way. It's kind of a superpower.
Yep.
It's also a burden, especially when you don't know what to do with it.
Yep.
And I'll ask them, I'll just kind of look at them and go, "Are you a little psychic?" And they'll be like, "Yes, how did you know?" Yeah, I almost want to say it's kind of a palpable feeling.
It's also, I would agree, it's a burden. People always say to me, "Oh, wow, isn't that cool what you can do?" And I go, try living with it. You can't turn it off.
Okay. Yes. What do you do about that? Because otherwise it could kind of make you crazy,
Correct.
couldn't it? I mean, there could be a real downside to that. How do you, I'm going to use the term modulate it?
I meditate between 2 and 6 hours a day, every day, no matter where I am. And that helps to keep me balanced. And I see a lot of practitioners who I help them, they help me. There's a whole group of them. I have people all over the country, so I can work on the phone with no problem. I don't have to see you to do the work. And I don't have to be near you to do the work either. I have people in Australia, Japan, Italy, England, that kind of thing. And they find me through, weird situations, because we're all sort of weird in this thing. But that's how I get clients, is that someone will call and say, I have someone I have no idea what to do with. Maybe you can help me. And either I work on them or I have people that I've trained to work on them. So that's what we do. And they're not all acupuncturists. A lot of them are acupuncturists, but not all.
This episode is brought to you by Jane, the clinic management software that honestly just makes running a practice easier. Let's dive into something that's never easy, but sometimes necessary: raising your fees. It can feel awkward, right? But here's a tip that can really help. Consider offering flexibility to your patients as you introduce the change. When patients face new fees, it's natural for them to feel uncertain or concerned. That's where flexibility can really make a difference. Offering options like a phased increase, suggesting a payment plan, or even taking a moment to talk things through can help to ease the transition. These thoughtful gestures show your patients that you're listening and care about them, which strengthens the trust you've worked so hard to build. If you're looking for more ideas on how to navigate these kinds of changes, head to frontdesk.jane.app and check out the article, How to Tell Clients You're Raising Your Fees. One last thing, if you're ready to give Jane a try, you can use the code QIOLOGICAL for a 1-month grace period on your new Jane account. I want to step back to something you mentioned at the beginning of this conversation about mild trance states, and that you notice that mild trance states seem to be helpful.
Yep.
How so? What's going on here?
So that mild trance state is the same connection I get with someone when I connect to, I'll call them the realms, the areas outside of me. When I connect to it and can connect to them, that's the same as getting the mild trance state.
So it's a kind of state of connective coherence?
I would say it's an opening to the energy of the universe that you are directing to them with the acupuncture, and there's less resistance if they're in that state. In other words, they let the healing power of the energy flow through them.
Mm-hmm.
and they stop fighting it, because a lot of people fight their getting better.
Yeah. How is it that we're set up like that? I suspect there's a purpose that's being served. Where does this resistance come from?
Fear, mostly. And, a lot of people, the devil you know is better than the devil you don't. Mostly just fear. And fear, a lot of it comes from things they learned as children, whether it's religion or ways of doing things, or just the inability to uncover some traumatic experiences that they had that are in the way, that they know needs to get through, but they can't do that because it's too scary.
So they kind of get stuck in time around that fear, or that trauma.
Correct. If they can even remember the trauma.
And if they can't remember it, it's almost like being doubly stuck, yeah?
Correct.
Out of awareness and still operating.
It can take time. I have long-term people that I work with, because some people are so damaged energetically that it's very, very difficult.
This this yin connection, this yin state, can you tell me a little more about connecting with it?
Sure. So I liken it in the beginning to people, and I'll use a martial arts analogy just because that's who I am. There are a lot of styles of martial arts, which I call hard. And I mean styles that use force and power to defeat the enemy. And I'm not saying one is better than the other. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just talking about different ways of using your energy. So that would be a lot of the karate, the Okinawan styles, the Kung Fu styles from China, where they'll try to block the blow that you're sending them and use power, a fist or a foot or an elbow coming back at you, to subdue their enemy. And then you have what's called the internal martial arts, which the major ones that you'll find today, 3 Taoist ones from China, which are Taiji, Bakwa, and Xingyi. And another big one is Aikido. It'll be a Japanese version of that. And the point of those styles is to blend with your opponent and use their energy against them. So that's the underneath energy. Another one would be Qigong. Qigong is very popular right now. What does Qigong build? It builds energy, builds qi, but it's that gentle thing that comes in, that you don't forcibly get. You get it by learning how to move your body, using your breath, and opening your mind to the powers of the universe.
I get this feeling as you're discussing it of standing at the seashore in the sand.
That's it. Beautiful.
At the edge of the water, and the way the water will pull the sand out from under your feet. It'll just gently pull the sand away.
And the ocean itself will speak to you.
Mm-hmm.
It's relaxing. What happens when you relax? Your body, your muscles relax, and your mind relaxes, and it opens to something. What does it open to? Energy. It's all about working with energy.
John, that is such a troublesomely amorphous term.
Which is?
Energy.
Well, that's why I use the word power, because to me, energy is everywhere, and power is focused energy. And so sometimes that's clearer to people, sometimes it's not. It just depends on the person. But that's what shamanic stuff is doing. That's what you're doing when you do acupuncture. I don't care what level you're doing it. You're focusing energy somehow. You're moving it.
Yeah.
Taking
energy and focusing it. And again, I'm really struck. I may sound like a broken record, but that's just because I'm slow and I have to often repeat things to have it gel. But we're talking about an in energy here, an in type focus, not a yang type focus.
Correct. And we're letting ourselves open to the energy of the universe. In other words, we're not forcing it. I'm not saying, oh, I want this energy. I want lightning to strike on this person now. That's not what we're doing. We're doing the opposite of that. We're opening to the energy, and we're letting the energy flow through us into the person that needs it. And that's the key, is because otherwise what happens is you're using your own energy. If you're trying to build it in your body and then shifting it to somebody else, you're going to get very sick very fast doing that.
Yes. So what are some practices? What are some ways of opening to this energy in a clear and safe way?
Well, I'm a big meditator, as you can tell. And so I think the number one way would be to meditate. I think there's lots of different kinds of meditation, but I think that, meditation to me is like a training of your mind. So if you wanted to run a marathon, first you start with 1 mile, then you go to 2 miles, then you go to 3 miles. You're training your body. And that's what meditation does for your mind. It trains your mind not to focus on thoughts, and to train it to be able to be used in other realms of existence than just the consensus reality that we're in now.
Mm. So meditation's a super popular thing these days. I've got an app on my phone that will give me 10,000 or more different kinds of meditation I can sit down and do. Most of them are actually visualization exercises, I think.
Yep.
When you say meditation, are you thinking Zen type meditation? Are you thinking of breath meditation? What flavor are we talking about here? Is there a direction or perspective or something to sort of aim at?
I don't care what kind of formal meditation to use. I think most what people call meditation nowadays is relaxation. And I have no objection to that, but that's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's why I want to dig into this a little bit, because I have patients come in and say, yeah, I've been meditating lately, and I hear about what they're doing, and it sounds like some kind of guided imagery, either relaxation or to instill and reinforce a thought of something that they want to be able to get.
And, I don't have any problem with that. It's fine. As I said, it's not.
But it's not what you're talking about here.
No, it's not going to develop the power that you need to be able to heal in this kind of way. It's just not. But, there's Zen, there's Vipassana, which is called mindfulness meditation, which is very popular now. There's Qigong, there's Neigong, there's Taoist meditations. There's thousands of those, which are great. Yeah, so, there's Buddhist, there's Hindu meditations. There's you can meditate, Christianity has meditations like the Trappists use. If you want to study the Hebrew Kabbalah, Sufi is another form of meditation. It's a dance, movement form of meditation. So it's endless what you can do. It just depends on what works for you. I like to sit because when you sit and you do the meditation, you face you. It is, I would say, a more difficult thing to do for most people. Then other people are just called to do it. But, you can make up your own, whatever it is that you want to do. But in general, I'd say there's 3 kinds of meditation. There's breath meditation, where in the beginning, there's 3 kinds. And that's to learn how to not focus on your thoughts. Because people think that their thoughts are actually their mind. But that's not true. And that's why the Buddha was so famous, is he figured out that the thoughts are actually not your mind. They're your mind wandering. And so if a thought comes into your mind and you don't pay attention to it, what happens to it? It disappears.
Disappears.
And if you can do that, then you will notice that your mind totally changes and opens up to a whole different way of being. And that's, I think, what you need, no matter what you want to use to get there. whether it's breath meditation, mandala, which is a picture, mudra, any of those kinds, it doesn't matter. Sound, visualizations.
Mudra, these are like hand positions?
They can be. And they can also be, I'm sorry, not mudra, mantra. Yeah, a mudra seals the energy from escaping from your body when you do pranayama, which is yogic. Yeah, I mean, you can use all those, but it doesn't matter to me. Whatever works for you. The Taoists are heavily into visualizations, some pretty cool visualizations. And I've done hundreds of different kinds. Nowadays, I just sit. But because...
Kind of back to your Zen.
It's all Zen. I am Zen. I'm very Zen. You know, as I said, I did receive Darwin transmission, which means I am a Zen master. I can teach it, but I don't teach it because it's not really my way of doing things. I like to combine lots of things together, as you can tell. But basically, that's who I am. I'm very Zen. It's when you go to see me, it's very similar to being in what's called dokusan, a one-on-one meeting with your teacher in intensive meditation sessions called sessions. I'm looking for a way to get you to connect to me, basically. And when I do that, that's how we move on. It's much the same as what Zen does. They just don't talk about it that way. They have their own sort of secret way of talking about it, which, in my opinion, doesn't help people very much. And I think there are ways they could do it, so it's, I'm not going to say easier, but less stressful on people.
Well, it sounds like you certainly went down that path quite a ways, far enough to get transmission, and then then some other teachers showed up. What was this woman doing with the psychiatrist? This almost sounds like the setup to a joke. A shaman, a psychiatrist, and an acupuncturist walk into a bar.
I never met him. He soon after I started work with her, he moved to Argentina, and he moved because he was getting grief from the board of medicine in Rhode Island, and because he was practicing, I don't know, voodoo or something. I don't know.
Oh, so she was teaching him as well.
That was the first student, yeah. And yeah, so nowadays, what I do is normal, and they're even doing it with plants, for God's sakes. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, it's odd. Probably not as odd as it was 30 years ago. I mean, acupuncture was super odd 30 years ago, and now it's pretty commonplace when you come right down to it.
Well, especially here in Massachusetts, in different parts of the country, it depends on where you are. We have a lot of acupuncturists in New England, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, for school, you're going to...
Right. Yep.
You're going to create a lot of practitioners, and they're probably going to put down roots nearby.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
For folks that are listening to this right now, and maybe they're not interested.
And they haven't hung up yet.
I'm sorry, say that again?
They haven't hung up yet.
They haven't hung up? Yeah, that's right. If you haven't already turned this off, gone over to your other favorite podcast, whatever 18 of them you have. For folks that are listening and they're thinking, well, this makes sense, being able to open up to a deep in energy and get my ego out of the way. Oh man, what a relief that would be, huh?
Yep.
Get your ego out of your practice. There's a relief. But maybe not ready to embark down a road of shamanistic training.
No.
Are there some ways of beginning to learn to open to this kind of a chi that we're talking about and investigate it and bring it into your work in some gentle, I'm going to call it beginner fashion?
Well, I would say yoga would be one. Tai Chi would be another. Qigong would definitely be one.
All the usual cultivation stuff that we usually talk about.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's meditation. You might be able to get there through music. I have a couple of very, very psychic people who are really superb musicians, and that's how they connect. Dance, this is certainly could be one too. There's a number of people out there who do what they call, either shamanic dancing or psychic dancing, in which they try to get into a state and just move. You could study the Kabbalah. Kabbalah's out there pretty well.
Lots of ways. So I reckon you find the one that you feel like you resonate with and go for it. Take some steps inside. See how it connects to your acupuncture.
Absolutely. And if it's not perfect, then you go on to something else. That's all. And what I've done, I've studied lots of things. And what I do is I take from it what I need, and then I incorporate it in my little bag of tricks. So I would say to people, most likely they will not be one way. There'll be lots of ways. But along the way, I'm 71 years old now, so I try to pick up little things so I don't have to stay with them too long. How long do you have,
Would you say you're more discriminating about what you delve into at this point?
I go wherever the souls, the spirits tell me to go. I'm always being led. I'm always having things open for me when I'm ready for them to open. And that's what I follow.
I have had a handful of experiences in my life where I'm going to say an opportunity was presented to me. And I didn't hem and haw, and I didn't even pause to consider or weigh the alternatives.
And
someone said something or an opportunity showed up, and it was just like that. But it's only happened for me a handful of times.
Yep.
Is it possible to cultivate a deeper sense of recognizing those, I'm going to call them gateways or opportunities?
Absolutely. And the way is just do what we were talking about. Start opening yourself up in some way, and you'll find things come to you. So almost none of these things they came to me. I mean, obviously, if you're going to do Tai Chi, you got to go look for a Tai Chi school, right? But, but you'll know when you go to one, whether it's for you or not. You'll see what the students are like. You'll see what the teacher's like. If it doesn't resonate with you, that's fine. You go to some other place. And we're lucky in this country because we have, at the moment, tons of this stuff all over the place.
Tremendous opportunity.
Unbelievable. And some of it depends on where you live, of course, the West Coast, the East Coast, let's say from DC up on the East Coast anyway. And, West Coast, New Mexico, sure, Arizona, I'm sure in St. Louis where you are, you'll find people doing, all the same kind of stuff. You may have to look harder, but I'm sure they're there.
What I have found in my time of living in St. Louis is that if there's something that you're interested in finding, you'll probably find it here.
Yeah.
It's a large enough metropolitan area.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Used to be, I had to go to New York seriously, to find a Bakwa or Xingyi teacher in the 70s. Oh my God. New York, it's the only place. Probably California, but from Boston, it's easier to go to New York than it is to California.
Well, things evolve. That's for sure.
Absolutely. No question. No question. Yeah.
Having a thriving, profitable practice is one of the most healing things you can do as a healthcare practitioner. Because a robust business is the ultimate expression of vital chi. And that's the heart of our medicine. I'm Julie Bairdontlock, and I help practitioners grow nourishing, profitable, authentic businesses that embody the generative cycle of Chinese medicine. This isn't about all yang all the time. It's about expanding your own internal capacity, growing collaborative relationships with your patients for ethical patient retention, and marketing as an extension of this medicine, not a necessary evil. You already know that everything is connected in your patients' lives and bodies. The same is true for your business. When we align your systems, your schedule, your pricing, and your offerings with you, we create flow, which means more spaciousness, more impact, and more joy. When you are in the flow, fully resourced in terms of chi, time, and money, your business becomes a source of healing, not just for your patients, but for you. Let's grow something rooted, radiant, and real. Visit lifeflowconsulting.com to learn more.
Okay. I want to come back to something, and I mentioned it or asked a little bit about it And I think what you replied was meditation. But again, this piece about doing this work in a way that's safe. And the reason I ask that is because it seems to me, with what little experience I have, that shamanistic practice, because you're opening yourself up to all kinds of, to the powers. My suspicion is there is much that's benevolent and there's some that may not be so. What are some things to do to make sure that you're safe? Do you need a teacher? Do you need a certain kind of practice? This is something that I've thought about for years, because shamanism used to sound really cool to me when I was a much younger person. And then it seemed to me that, oh my goodness, you better tread carefully here. This is not necessarily a walk in the park.
So I 100% agree with you, and I would highly recommend you find a teacher or let a teacher find you. You're not going to get it out of a book. Now, that being said, I've had lots of teachers, and mostly I've worked on my own. I don't meditate in a group. I meditate by myself. But I used to meditate in groups. I would find some place that you could fit into that's not cultish. And sometimes that can be hard to do too. But a teacher, a guide would be helpful. And I wouldn't say it's dangerous, but it is dangerous to start playing with things on your own before you know what to do. So now I also will say that for people who are coming from their heart and their soul and wanting to help people heal, they don't usually attract things that are negative. For those who are interested in power over, even if they don't know it, they'll know it fast enough because they'll get sick without a teacher, without a way to guide, without a way of learning how to use that energy. Yeah, I did the whole Zen thing, then found the shamanic teacher, and I walked in that room that one day, and there she was. It was her. And she looks at me, and she goes, "Oh, my God, I haven't seen one of you in years. Look at all that violence. Oh, my God." And I'm thinking, what the hell is she talking about? Right? I'm not a violent person. Well, what she was talking about is shamanic work calls to you. You don't decide what you want to be. And I find a lot of people nowadays, they want to be a shaman and say they go out and they decide what it is they want to be. That's not how it is. It finds you. And you look at every indigenous culture, and that's the way it's been. You're born into it. You don't. And I was born into the warrior part of it. And my job was to protect and attack other villages that were attacking you. And the first job my teacher gave me was to clean a castle in Switzerland of evil energy, dark energy, she called it. And I'm going, well, that's interesting, since I've never been to Switzerland and I have no idea where the castle is. So what do you want me to do? And she was like, you'll figure it out. And what she meant was that I have these souls, the beings that are around me, and I had to learn how to call on the souls to help me to travel to Switzerland to clean the dark energy off of the castle, because that was my gift. And I do that with people. I do that with all kinds of things. But I learned real quickly that, yes, that was my gift in other lifetimes, and I'll be happy to do it in this one, but I need to learn to use that underneath energy, that loving energy, the energy that you connect to whatever the one you want to call is light and love and beautiful and healing. And that's what I do now. I have transformed myself from that into something much different. But still, sometimes I need to call on those souls, and I do. Mostly that's not what I do anymore. But you are right. There are all kinds of crazy people out there. You have to be careful who you find. Let's put it that way. I see a lot of cults. I see a lot of people getting misused. I see a lot of people sick from it.
What kind of sickness do you see from this? Is there a particular kind of sickness that makes you go, oh, that's that kind of spirit sickness.
I do go because I can see the darkness around them. And once I see that, then I know it's a problem. And, that can come from doing things with bad intentions or being around bad people or just having really bad things growing up. And that's what happened to you. Or you can bring them in from other lifetimes too.
I'm just thinking as we're having this conversation, in some ways it's easier just to do a pattern differentiation and put some needles in.
Without any question, I would agree with that. Yep, and if that works for you, that's great. I as I said to you, I love acupuncture. I mean, I've spent an awful lot of time working to get acupuncture in this country, working on it, studying it, being with it, learning it, yada. I think it's brilliant. I've always thought it's brilliant. And I love herbal medicine too. I don't do as much of that anymore. I do more of that probably than acupuncture, but I just think the power of plants is amazing, absolutely amazing. And each plant has its own power, just like each point has its own power. Each meridian has its own power. So I'm interested in anything that's energetic. And I would just say that for some reason, and I don't exactly know why, I didn't look for it. It came to me. The lady found me and she was directed to contact me. She said, off I went.
No, I hear you. Like I said, I've had a handful of experiences that I guess you could say directed me. There was an invitation. You could go here, you could not go here. No harm, no foul, either way. But there was something in me that went, oh yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Yep.
Not even not a decision so much as a recognition. Oh yeah, it's over this way.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just a feeling, you come to a fork in the road, literally, and you look down that fork, and you look down that fork, and which one's pulling you? And I agree, that's what it is. I get a lot of acupuncture. I love acupuncture, don't you?
Mm-hmm. You mentioned that different points have an energy and different meridians have an energy. Could you share with us a little bit from your shamanic point of view or your particular energetic point of view of the character or nature of the meridians, how they're different, what they're like?
I think they're just what you learn in school. I think that it's been well thought out. And for me, what happens is the points call out to me. Right? For my first, let's say, 10 years of practice, I would do a differential diagnosis. And I would do like a 4 or 5 page intake form. I go through the whole thing with the patient and yada, yada, yada. Nowadays, I don't do intake forms. I just look and I can see. And the same with acupuncture. The points jump out at me that want to happen, or I run my hand up a meridian. It'll tell me which point to use. And that's how I do it. And I'll only use maybe 4 points or so, 5 or 6, something like that. Depends on what's needed to happen. I think the more you study it, the more you really can get a feel for the meridians and the different names of the points. And, the one thing I love about acupuncture is that my major in college was East Asian history with a minor on ancient East Asian history. And I think, how did these guys figure this out? And I think what happens is they could see it. They could see the energy traveling in your body, and they could feel the energy traveling in your body. And that's how it was all developed. And we can too. You just have to focus on it. The other thing I love about it is there's so many different, there's 5 element theory, there's, inside, outside, hot, cold, 8 principles. There's all these different theories that were developed at different times. And you can learn each of them, which you usually do in school. But what's cool is you can pick points from one or the other, and they still work. Yeah, you don't have to stick to one style or not. And I think that's just beautiful. Love it.
Acupuncture seems incredibly fractal-like to me. And certainly we could look through the lens of the 5 phases or through the 6 chi or whatever, and you'll see things because there's a perceptual reality inside of it.
Yep.
But that's not the only one.
Right.
And you can actually overlay them to some degree.
Isn't that awesome?
It's a lot of fun.
I never got bored doing acupuncture. As I said, other things called to me, and that's where I went. But it wasn't because I didn't like acupuncture.
Definitely not. For those of us who don't have the shamanic training or just maybe at the beginning of some kind of cultivation, I've been at this for 25 years. I think I'm just beginning to get a sense of how some of this stuff works. I'm looking forward to the next 25, if I get that many.
We hope so.
I'll take what I get, Hang on, there's a question at the tip of my tongue and it just slid right off. It'll be back. Damn, it just went away. I hate that.
I know. Believe me.
Hang on, I'm just going to sit here and see if it'll come back to me.
That's fine.
Because it seemed important a moment ago.
We can always have conversations off air.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that invitation.
Yeah. Off tape, shall we say.
Yeah. Off tape.
I'm old fashioned. Tape. There's no tape no more.
No, I know there isn't. But, whenever I do a podcast, I'm always like, okay, let's roll some tape.
I know.
Because in my mind, it's tape. And I like the idea of, I'm kind of analog when you come right down to it. Oh, yes. I think I'm remembering trance states. Again, I've noticed that acupuncture induces a really interesting, unusual state. I noticed it the first time I had acupuncture. I remember coming out and it's like, what the hell was that?
I'm like so relaxed. It feels really good.
It wasn't just relaxed. It was...
It goes beyond relaxed, of course.
It was a different state of reality, for sure. Different state of consciousness.
Yep.
Stuck with me.
Yep.
Changed things.
Yep.
Look, I am one now. Here's the other thing about trance states. I've studied it briefly a bit when I was in school. They're very suggestible states. They're very powerful, malleable states, what little I understand. When working with patients, especially if we're not working in a shamanic way, we're just working as acupuncturists, but we are treading into this realm because of the work that we do and the way that it works and the way that people interact with needles, and they have this experience going to light trance states. Is there anything that we can do to be a little more helpful to our patients, recognizing that they're in a malleable, suggestible state? Are there things that we should do or things that, likewise, avoid doing so that we could be of more benefit to them? Again, being respectful of that malleable state that they're in.
Yeah, you have to be very careful in that one. One of my dear friends and a lady for 30 years worked next door to me. She's an acupuncturist, herbalist, and also into shamanic things. What she does is she'll put the needles in, and then she takes them through a guided meditation. And she has a bunch of them that she's developed that are very positive. Like he'll take you to a field, a beautiful field with a stream running through it. And it's beautiful, whatever, down to the beach and listen to the waves. And people tell me that they really like that deepens the trance state. I don't know if it's true or not because I've never experienced it, but acupuncture, I think, can be a deep, deep instrument to helping people relax and get into those states. And I really do. But there's a difference between a deep meditative state and a deep trance state. So the trance states they don't go as deep. Meditation, everybody says, oh, you must be so relaxed. Meditation is so relaxing. And I'm thinking, well, you've never been to Zendo before.
I know. It's hilarious when they go, oh, that's so Zen. It's like,
no.
Have you been to a Zen center?
No. I go, you ever done this before?
No.
And I did Rinzai Zen with the stick and the yelling and the whole bit. It's like, no. They're trying to get you to bring up deep shit you don't want to bring up. And they're having you bring it up and deal with it, literally. So there's a big difference between the two. But I still think the trance states can help people soften those areas that they're too scared to go to.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't they might not even know what happened. I've had so many people who just have buried whatever the memory was that's killing them. They have no idea it was there, but I can see it. So
you've got kind of an advantage because the shamanic work has developed a kind of vision for you.
Correct. But not all shamanic people see. A lot of them feel more than they see. But, you've developed it too. You just don't realize it. So when you talk to me about somebody comes in and you're talking to them and you're getting a certain feeling from them and a certain, way something should go, after a while, you don't listen to them anymore. You just feel what's going on. And what they say, you get a feeling from it. Yeah, you do it too. You just haven't noticed it.
I'll pay more attention.
I'm serious. I was talking to a PT friend of mine. They say, well, how the hell do you do this? And I go, well, you do it too. I've seen you. People walk in and you know exactly what's wrong with them before they open their mouth. Well, he goes, well, that's experience. I go, oh, God, shoot me. Right? Yeah, of course it's experience, but it's more than experience. Right? It's something beyond experience that you're tapping into.
Well, could we say it's the fruits of experience?
Sure, absolutely. But it's led you into being able to see, feel, be with the patient on a deeper level. And you do that every day.
I got a great job.
I love this whole stuff. I have so many doctor friends who are retiring. They go, so when are you retiring? My 50th college reunions next year. And they're all retired. And I go, how can I retire me? I mean, this is me. This is what I do. This is my being. This is how I'm happiest. So why would I retire from that? Yes, I change it. Yes, I morph it. Yes, I do less of it than I did 40 years ago. You know what I mean? It's like I don't have that energy anymore, but why would I stop doing something I love? So I don't.
Well, John Myerson, that seems like a pretty good spot to put a pin in it for the day. Why would I retire from something I love? Actually, let me ask you one more question. Anything else to say about this before we do hit the stop button on the tape machine?
No, I can go on forever on this topic. You get that. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. If you want me to do another one of these, feel free to contact me. I'm having fun talking to you. So I don't usually talk to people. I don't usually talk about this period in public, but somehow I'm called to do this. So I'd be happy to do it, whatever you want.
Great. Thank you so much. Until next time, then.
Thank you.
It's tricky to talk about that which does not lend itself to logic, words, or conception. As the first line of the Tao Te Ching says, Dao ke Dao, Fei Chang Dao. That Dao that can be spoken, it's not the true Dao. Beyond words, beyond conception, there is a tangible aspect of being. It defies description and invites our exploration and attention. That invitation to cultivate our attention, that might actually be what I was looking to gain some capacity with as a young man. And it's something that my clinical practice every day invites me into. I suspect yours does as well. As with the best of conversations, it's good to come to the end with more potent questions and the capacity to sit with and explore them. Well, here we are at the end of this episode. If you've listened up to this point, you're either a rabid fan of Qiological or the forward button on your podcast player stopped working. If you are indeed a fan of the podcast, you can help us to bring new episodes to our community of practitioners by supporting us with a membership or a one-time contribution. Details, of course, are on the website. That's it for today, friends. Join us again next Tuesday for another thoughtful episode of Qiological.